have the leaders of the West gone mad? Well, judging by European performance over the last few weeks, yes, I'm afraid they have. Britain and Germany are effectively now in a state of war with the nuclear-armed superpower with 5,850 nuclear warheads, a country called Russia. The state of war is now moving rapidly to a deployment. The active phase, as Keir Starmer put it, the operational phase, as Keir Starmer put it, is now upon us. That means to say that Britain is about to send troops to Ukraine. This despite the warning from Russia that this would be a declaration of war against them. This despite the obvious that with one single Orishnik missile, non-nuclear, the entire British expeditionary force could be wiped out. It would be very much greater a military setback than it happened in the charge of the Light Brigade. It would be very much more serious than almost anything that the British Armed Forces have faced ever, never mind since the Second World War. Because Keir Starmer says he will respond to any act against British troops in Ukraine with the potential use of British nuclear weapons. Now, there are a number of problems associated with that. First of all, as many technical reports have made clear, Britain does not have operational control over its nuclear weapons. It would have to have the permission and the cooperation of the United States to fire its nuclear weapons at Russia. The British government were boasting this week that they could take out 40 Russian cities. Although that's not true, because as soon as the first Russian city was taken out by British nuclear weapons, Britain would cease to exist. And so the braggadocio of the Starmer government, accused this week by General Kellogg of being in the grip of the worst case of pound shop Churchill impersonation since doughboy Boris Johnson. Keir Starmer is a joke, according to General Kellogg, President Trump's representative on the Russian front. But as soon as we had taken out one Russian city, every single British city would literally cease to exist. That's the balance of power that exists between Britain and Russia, and yet the British government persists in the most nakedly aggressive way to threaten Russia, including to threaten it with nuclear weapons. Well, I am not privy to the thinking in the Kremlin, but I imagine it goes something like this. This Chihuahua, Keir Starmer, just threatened 40 Russian cities with nuclear attack. We better get ready to preemptively stop any possibility of that happening. And so, the reality is that Keir Starmer, who presides over a sinking economy, a society that is ripping itself apart, that cannot agree on anything, which is cold, wet, miserable, and getting poorer and poorer, and going to get much poorer still, according to Keir Starmer. By 2030, every family in Britain will be worse off. Hey, vote for me, I'll make you worse off, said no successful political party ever. The reality is that Britain is outstripped only by Germany in its preparations for war with Russia. Now, the new, or soon-to-be new, German Chancellor has told the German people that they must now spend 800 billion euros more, 800 billion euros more, that's the best part of €1 trillion, on weapons of war and preparations for war with Russia. That's the Russia that only 2 years ago was supplying Germany, and had been for decades, with cheap and dependable gas on which their entire industrial and economic strength was built. The German magazine, close to the Prime Minister, new Prime Minister, Chancellor of Germany, warned Germany's youth today that they must be prepared to go to war with Russia. Well, we don't know what might go wrong, because Britain never fought Russia in the nuclear age, not since the 1850s and the Crimean War, but the Germans fought Russia very much more recently than that. Indeed, in the lifetime of some of the people watching this show this very evening. And it did not end well for them. And again, while not privy to thinking in the Kremlin, if I were in the Kremlin, this is what I'd be saying. We made a serious mistake in allowing the reunification of Germany. We made a very serious mistake in allowing our forces to be forced out of the eastern part of Germany. We made a very serious mistake in not ensuring that the verbal promises of the Americans that NATO would not advance 1 inch to the east if we agreed to leave Germany and tear down that wall. We made a very serious set of mistakes with Germany, and we are going to have to prepare for that war that the German government is absolutely determined upon.